Hello world, this time I'm going to use Visual Study Code for the next exercise. So this is what it's going to look like, our predefined code. We already have the component did mount there set, and I have the fetch. In this case, it's going to be this link that I'm showing here to you, JSON link, that we have all the information of asteroids, and what we're going to retrieve now is the name and the distance also, name and distance in rows on the table, and it should look this way. So for a specific date, that is going to be 2017, 9th of October, we're going to retrieve all the objects with their respective names and distances. But in order to do that, we're going to take a look at our code. We're going to fetch it here first, the URL, that is this one over here. Then we're going to initiate a list. And the list is going to loop through the objects. The list is gonna, well, first of all, obtain all the objects, in this case only two different columns with rows we're gonna display, and then it's gonna save it in a constant and soon return it, render on the table like that. So we're gonna create a list, like I say. The list is gonna be called asteroid list, say, and it's gonna be empty. And then here in the set state, never forget the brackets inside that. So we can use the JSX syntax, JSX. Okay, so we have the asteroid list, and there it's gonna, let's say, change to what is already response data as an object, and that's gonna have the very first parents object that is going to come from near Earth object, then 2017 10 9. Okay, so what we're going to do is near Earth objects, near Earth objects, and inside this, in quotation marks, 2017 10 09. So this should be our very first asteroid list update. But after this, inside the render, before the return part, we're going to create a constant that is always built this way in JavaScript const, and that's going to be called asteroid. And the asteroid is going to be this state and asteroid list. So we're already there. After this step, we are already retrieving this. So we start from this point, but this is going to create a loop. And the loop is the important part here. Loop is always made with map functions for tables. And after this, we don't need to forget about these numbers because it's always going to consider them. That's how it's going to loop through. So what matters after this number, 0 or whatever, comes the links and the rest. ID, neo reference, estimated diameter, close approach data, and so on. So what we want to retrieve first is the name. So we just say asteroid and dot name. So we name this object first. It's going to be called asteroid, and this object is going to then return, well, the table structure always this way, and inside that we have the rows, and in this we're going to call the objects. So we have in this case two, the name and the distance we want to obtain. So the name is going to be asteroid dot name straight away, and here if we're going to have some search function, we're going to just use an index, and the index is going to be always the name. In this case, whenever we're going to find certain object through a search at some point, we can use this as an index by the name. So the name, and then what comes next is very important because it has some route to follow that is going to be, instead of name, it's going to be close approach data that is going to have a number 0, and then after that the missed distance, and finally the kilometer. So we have to be very careful how we write this. So instead of the name, it's going to be, once again, the close approach data, close approach data. Then after that, it's going to have the missed distance, and finally kilometers. Missed But the close approach data already had a 0. In order to follow next, as it shows here, close approach data 0, and then miss distance. So we have to be very careful with that. Miss distance and kilometers. So we are set to go. I almost made a mistake there. So this should be the constant. But what about the return part? The return part is going to, of course, return whatever comes later. And in this case, we can use easy HTML syntax. Everything's going to be inside the div. We're going to have a header here, let's say with h1. So we're going to call this, let's say, closest asteroids on, let's say, 9th October 2017. That was the date we chose. Then we created table there. Table syntax, table head. In this case, we don't need it. We just use the table body. Inside the table body, we have another DR. And here we're gonna use the headers inside. So the headers are always set with the h tags. So both, it's gonna be whatever we write here doesn't matter anymore. We just give it a name. So the first column, I'm sorry, is gonna be the name and then the distance. We just say name distance in kilometers. So I just say it like this, kilometers. And after this, here we call the object. And the object we created is not an object in this case, it's just the, what we call here, the constant. So the constant is going to be called, but the constant I can call asteroid item just to give it a different name, so we can distinguish this from this object inside the mapping function, so we don't get confused. And this is what is going to be brought here. So if we test this now with our program, it should look this way, but no, there is a mistake. Again, the distance, something is wrong here with the distance. Let's take a look again. Close approach data, then we have the missed distance and kilometers, right? So if there is a typo here, we're gonna spot it right now. The typo, where is this function where we set this, is here. Actually, we never call this there, so I'm gonna put it there. And this asteroid name is gonna be the very first one, my mistake. So now here we are, asteroid name, and it's also going to be used as an index, and then the next row that is going to be the distance. So now after this step, we could actually see what we wanted to get. Finally, it has here inside the div, always never forget to add the div if we're going to have the title for the table and the columns, always inside the div. Otherwise, it's not going to work out this. This is going to launch an error and it's not going to be displayed. So thank you very much for following this video, and I hope I can help you with the next exercise soon.